I'm sure you've seen the pictures from Bucha and just outside of Kyiv. Bodies left in streets as Russian troops withdrew. There's nothing less happening than major war crimes. Responsible nations have to come together to hold these perpetrators accountable. And together with our allies and our partners, we're going to keep raising the economic cost and ratchet up the pain for Putin and further increase Russia's economic isolation.
President Joe Biden today on the horrifying scenes out of Bucha near Ukraine's capital of Kyiv and what appears to be convincing and mounting evidence of Russian war crimes and heinous atrocities. It's part of the White House's reasoning for a brand new round of sanctions today, blocking two of Russia's largest banks from the U.S. financial system, prohibiting Americans from making any new investments in Russia, and cutting off some of Putin's closest allies from U.S. banks. That includes his two adult daughters, Kremlin officials, and their families. NBC News has new reporting about how the U.S. is using intelligence as a weapon, even when that intelligence isn't rock solid. From that reporting, quote, the idea is to preempt and disrupt the Kremlin tactics, complicate its military campaign, and, according to a Western government official, undermine Moscow's propaganda and prevent Russia from defining how the war is perceived in the world. Joining us now, NBC News Pentagon correspondent Courtney Kube, one of the bylines on that new reporting, and former CIA Director John Brennan, an MSNBC senior national security and intelligence analyst. Director Brennan, I want to start with you. President Zelensky, in a, I think, speech for the ages, describes what's happening in his country as a genocide. What do you make of these sanctions, and what do you make as to whether or not Vladimir Putin is feeling any pain at all, or simply rallying his nation to his version of events?
Well, clearly, an evil leader like Vladimir Putin produces evil followers, and that's what we're seeing play out on the battlefields of Ukraine right now, these horrific and awful murders and killings of innocent civilians. And so what I think the Biden administration is doing is trying to make it as painful as possible for Vladimir Putin and the senior Russian leadership to continue this awful war. And they're hoping that there's going to be a cumulative impact here in terms of the costs that the Russian military has incurred on the battlefields, but also the financial, economic, and other pressures. And so what I think the Biden administration is doing, and what President Biden said today, is he's trying to make sure that any possible opportunity for Russia to use its sovereign wealth is going to be cut off. Now, obviously, we need to have the cooperation of countries around the world, but I do think we're going to see more and more of this international pressure led by the United States as a result of these horrific killings and mass murder that's taking place in Ukraine.
Dr. Brennan, we saw these pictures over the weekend because of something Courtney's been reporting on, and that's the repositioning of Russian forces. They had occupied Bucha. They pulled away from Kyiv to move and sort of harden their offensive in the eastern part of the country. But the view from Ukraine is that all across their country, there are many, 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 many Buchas. What, in your decades of experience in intelligence, do you assess is happening right now to civilians inside Ukraine at the hands of what Tony Blinken clearly believes is a top-down strategy by the Russian military?
Well, I think what we've seen are the indiscriminate Russian attacks against these population centers as a way to intimidate the Ukrainian population into submission. But also what I think we're seeing now as Russian forces are withdrawing from some of these cities are revenge attacks, these purely sadistic attacks, people who are bound and gagged and shot. Because, again, I think this battlefield has produced these individuals who are really just evil incarnate. That's all I can say on that. But this repositioning that's going on right now of these Russian forces, I think this is just Russia trying to regroup so that it can consolidate its positions and continue to prosecute this war in the eastern part of Ukraine, southern part of Ukraine as well. So I think as the Russian troops pull out and we're seeing more of the devastation, I think, unfortunately, we're going to find more of these Ukrainian citizens who have been mercilessly killed by these Russian forces.